England's always had a taste for blood dressed up as justice. You can smell it in the parchment, hear it in the prayers before the axe falls. First came Elizabeth Barton, the Holy Maid of Kent, a peasant girl with visions, or maybe just nerves and bad luck. She saw angels, heard voices, and told kings what they didn't want to hear. That's never a good career move. Henry VIII was carving his own church out of Rome's shadow, and Barton stood in his way, waving prophecy like a dagger. She said his soul was damned, his crown cursed. The Archbishop called her a saint. Henry called her a problem. Thomas Cranmer, the king's pet priest, wrung a confession out of her, the kind written in fear and fire. They called her a witch, a heretic, a liar. On a spring morning in 1534, they tied her to a stake and lit the kindling. She screamed that she was just a poor wench without learning. The flames didn't care. Neither did Henry. Then came Thomas More, scholar, saint, and fool enough to believe that truth could stand up to a tyrant. He'd once been Henry's friend, his counselor, his conscience. But friendship doesn't mean much when a king wants a divorce and a new religion to go with it. More refused to bend the knee, refused to sign the oath that made Henry God on earth. So they framed him, perjury dressed as patriotism. Richard Rich, a man whose name fit his soul, lied under oath. Said More denied the king's divine right. The court swallowed it whole. On July 6, 1535, they took his head off at the Tower. Henry got his church. Rich got his promotion. And England got another ghost. But the crown's appetite didn't stop there. 50 years later, Elizabeth I sharpened the same blade for her cousin, Mary, Queen of Scots. Royal blood, Catholic faith, and a claim to the throne that made Elizabeth twitch. Mary fled to England for sanctuary. Elizabeth gave her a cell. Then came the Babington plot, a web of letters, codes, and lies spun by Francis Walsingham, the Queen's spymaster. He forged the words that damned Mary, slipped them into her correspondence like poison in wine. "Kill the Queen," the letter said. It wasn't hers, but it didn't matter. They tried her without counsel, convicted her without proof. February 8, 1587, Fotheringhay Castle. Mary walked to the block in crimson, the color of martyrdom. They say she prayed for her executioners. They say the axe took 3 swings. Walsingham got his victory. Elizabeth got her peace. England got its legend. And somewhere in the dark, Titus Oates, another liar with a holy cause, kept the tradition alive. His popish plot turned paranoia into policy. Catholics hanged, burned, buried under false confessions. 3 men, Green, Hill, and Berry, went to the gallows for a murder they didn't commit. Their accuser recanted, then lied again. The crowd cheered anyway. That's the thing about power. It doesn't need truth. It just needs a story that sells. I've read the records, I've seen the signatures, different names, different centuries, same script. The maid, the scholar, the queen, all framed, all silenced, all burned or beheaded in the name of order. And me? I keep the case files, because someone has to remember that in England's long history of justice, the verdict was always written before the trial began.